Hello, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, The Boss Ravioli Queens. We are Boss Lady Amy,
Nick Holy Ravioli,
and Jasmine the Queen.
And we are three very real caregivers who decided we are going to spill all the ravioli on trending topics, healthcare, and so much more.
We've decided that we're going to cover a non-healthcare topic every other week as a form of self-care. After all, we live and breathe our jobs. Don't worry, we'll still have plenty of ravioli to spill.
We can't talk about work all the time. Sometimes we gotta be Cheerios because normally we're Fruit Loops.
On that note, let's
get
messy. Warning, this podcast includes profane language, crude humor, mature subjects, and possible talk of bodily fluids. This may not be suitable for listeners under the age of 18. This episode is called What in the Actual Hell is Going On Here? And by the title, it's pretty self-explanatory, so I think we're just gonna jump right into it.
So this episode, we're going to cover a lot more stuff.
Let's give some background.
Meaning?
The issues we had with releasing this episode the first time.
Oh, well, you guys, this is episode 6 now, but it was supposed to be episode 2. We had so many problems. I re-edited this episode 10 times. Well, not this episode, but the original that we had recorded. We had to scrap it, and now we're re-recording it because the app that I use is a...
It's a dud.
It's a bitch bag, okay?
It's a poop.
So.
It's a Devlin.
Let's
get down to the nitty-gritty.
Let's dive right into it.
You guys couldn't see it, but Amy just Superman. Okay. Well, I guess this time around I am going to start with Masa Amini because it's fresh on my brain still. So, again, in this episode, I still don't remember the country, and I do sincerely apologize for that.
Just Google it.
I don't want to be on my phone right now.
I'll Google it.
Okay. So, Masa Amini is a woman who was not wearing her hijab correctly. She had hair showing, and they have these police there who are basically like the Gestapo in Nazi Germany when that was a thing. They arrested her for having her hair showing and basically, from my understanding, beat her to death while telling her brother and her dad that she was fine and she was in like a holding cell. I actually listened to like the statement that her father gave to the news outlets and everything. And it was pretty heartbreaking because they were under the understanding that she was fine, and she wasn't. She was dead.
So, she was from Iran.
Iran. Okay. Big shocker there. Sorry, not sorry. Don't look at me like that. And it's nothing against Iranians, but literally, like, we had an entire ass war and nothing has gotten better. Literally nothing for them has gotten better, and I think that it's bullshit because women there literally have no rights, and currently in the U.S. we're going through all these things for women losing bodily autonomy. So, anyways, I
don't know why this world wants to backtrack. It's like they start getting progression and then they just want to like erase it all.
Literally, like... I'm sick of being told what to do by men with my body. You don't have a vagina. You can't get pregnant. You can get sexually assaulted, but lucky you, you don't have to go through carrying a child to full term after you've been sexually assaulted. So, yeah, that's my stance on things at the moment.
No uterus, no opinion.
Literally.
Why can't we all just like support each other in everything? Honestly.
Why can't we all just get along?
For real,
Why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
For real, and that even goes into like racism and all of that stuff because facts, black women have it a hell of a lot harder than white women do. And Amy and I can both attest to that. I mean, we're both white women, but we both have had people of color as friends, Jasmine included. And they have it so much harder than we do already. And now, just another thing to set us back even further, now people of color are still being basically like segregated in the South, and now the women don't have bodily autonomy either. So make it make sense, because the math ain't mathin'.
It's not.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I hate it.
And one of the things that I had brought up in the original recording as well is the fact that, like, when one of our residents has to have, like, a procedure or something, there's so many hoops that they have to jump through, and there's so many things that they have to do. And, they have to have the guardian sign off saying that everything is okay. And, like, us, we don't have guardians. We're, free to make our own decisions, and yet they're like, no.
We're free, but we ain't that free.
Exactly.
They want us to think that we're free when we're not.
And I literally don't think it's that much to ask for basic human rights.
No.
Like, it's not your body. You're not the one going through whatever the other person is going through. And, like, if having a child was going to kill me, I would literally be forced to die.
Mm-hmm.
And if the baby doesn't survive, then okay, congratulations, you just killed 2 humans.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And notice I didn't say women, I said humans, because at the end of the day, we are all human, we all bleed red, we all need oxygen, water, and food to survive, and shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Literally the basics.
We all poop the same.
No, we don't. I have seen enough poop in my day. We do not all poop the same.
Accurate.
So that also falls under the category of, like, gender justice, but, like, going back to Masa Amini for a minute, because Amy had said in the original recording as well that, like, that is, like, the most basic of women's rights. Like, her hair was
what
showing.
to do with her hair, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Her hair was showing. Come on. Like, if it is in your religious culture, and that is one thing that you practice, that's fine, but do not jeopardize someone else's life because they don't believe the same as you do.
Right.
It's not that hard of a concept.
There's just no reason for it.
No. There's not. There's absolutely no reason for someone to lose their life because they had their hair showing.
Mm-mm.
There's so many different, like, beliefs in the world, too. Like, none of them are right and none of them are wrong.
It's literally just what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, it can count as an opinion.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On to the next. We did talk about equality in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Because as most people know that are already caregivers or, like, in the healthcare industry, nurses, CNAs, caregivers, pretty much, like, the lower half of the food chain, and that's what I'm going to call it because doctors and surgeons are the higher end.
Mm-hmm.
It's predominantly female. Like, yes, there are a lot of male nurses, and I love to see that. Like, I love to see men in the caregiving role because for so long it was expected of women to just take that on.
Right.
And it's like, we're not in the frickin' 50s anymore.
Mm-mm.
We're not in the 40s. We're not even in the 1900s anymore, as sad as that is for me to say, knowing my birth year. Anyways, sorry, a little off topic. But we're not back in the day where everything is male-dominated anymore. Like, women are emerging, and that's great to see, but I also love to see men, quote-unquote, doing a woman's job. Because it's not a woman's job.
The amount of times I've heard that or whatever is ridiculous. Like, I've not only done caregiving, but, like, also even in like phlebotomy, I used to do blood draws and stuff also, or whatever, and the amount of patients that would be like, oh, it's nice to see a man doing a woman's job, and I'm like, this is a job, not gender specific. Like, what?
There are no gender roles when it comes to the workforce.
Like,
You
this
don't
is
need
a
a
job.
coochie to pull out a needle and
Right.
stick it in you and take some blood.
Or the same for like caregiving. It's like a lot of people just assume it's a woman's role sometimes, and it's not. A lot of the women are like happy to have a guy sometimes because, you know, especially if they're like they got some heavier people or like certain things that are harder for them to do.
Honestly, like, not gonna lie, sometimes when I work with you, I'm like, yes. I get to split the lifting today. And not like I don't with my other coworkers, but Jasmine usually will, like, just do it. Like, or if my back hurts real bad that day, I can be like, hey, how you feeling? You feel like putting this person to bed and I'll just change them?
Yeah.
It works.
I remember one time I was training this guy, and we went into this lady's room, and she was like, oh, you have a guy with you today. Is he here to do all your heavy lifting? Like, no, I'm training him. I'm going to be doing all the lifting, showing him how to do it. Like, that's not... He's not just there to just do all our lifting.
But could you imagine if we literally had somebody to do all the lifting?
They wouldn't do anything. They'd have to get up off their butts about 10 times a day, and then the rest of the shift they could just sit down and wait for the next lift.
Right.
So, sir, your job is charting. Charting and lifting.
Right. I hate charting.
I hate charting too. It's very redundant.
Yeah. We've covered charting in a previous episode, so
Yeah, I think we did it on our very first one, I think.
we've
And the
We've
third, I'm pretty sure.
gone over it a
Yeah.
lot in documentation and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, because it's so important.
Document.
If it's
it's
not
not
documented, it
didn't
didn't happen.
Oh.
Copyrighted.
Oh, man.
I think one of the things that we were going to talk about is not only being a woman in the workplace, but also just being a woman, like, in general.
Yeah. Because females, for whatever reason, are kind of looked down upon in society. Like, we shouldn't have as many rights as men have, which is stupid. Like, it's so dumb. Again, we're not in the 50s where things like that were just okay, and, like, on top of that, with the way things are with pricing now, you need 2 incomes.
Right.
Like, you
Literally.
need 2 incomes.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
like, if I'm working just as hard as my significant other or just a man in general, I should be getting paid the same wage. Because there's still a whole lot of places where women make way less than a man in whatever career they're doing, and that's not okay either.
I think the average is like 75 cents to $1 that a man makes.
Like
women
more?
women make 75 cents
Less.
like compared to every dollar that a
Oh,
man
that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense for the same job. It just doesn't.
Right, like factory jobs or whatever. If you're in a position where you're like leadership in some way or management, HR, whatever, regardless of if you're a man or a woman, you're still doing the same job. And that goes for line workers as well. Like, if a woman is lifting just as much as a man, then they should be making the same wage.
Right.
Right. Agreed.
In reality, they're probably working harder.
Honestly, that's not a lie. Because women, I feel like...
They're like, a lot of them are like go-getters, and they just like go. Like,
Yeah.
and if you think about it, like, it's been a man's world for so long or whatever, men feel like they don't have to work as hard.
That's a new perspective.
That is very
Because, I mean, if you
Wow.
think about it, they, like, it was always, like, men were always the center of everything, so it's like, why would they have to work for, more job security or rights or anything because they already had them to begin with.
Dang.
My jaw floor.
Yeah. Like, thinking about it in that light, it does make a lot of sense.
And I mean, it can go hand in hand with like how racism works too, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, let's be real here. Like, America is still very, very racist.
As sad as it is.
Like,
Literally makes me want to throw up.
I feel like in order to get any headway on any of the issues that America has going on right now, we all need to be, like, united. Because the government and, like, they're just so busy keeping us all divided. And until we are united instead of divided, we can't focus on the real issues at hand.
Right.
Exactly.
So speaking of being a united front, I wanted to talk a little bit about that in the workplace, especially because since it is a female-dominated industry, I guess you could say.
Amy lost her train of thought again.
Sure did.
Choo choo! Train has left
It
the
has
station.
left the station. Well, actually, it made me think of another thing. It's really interesting what you were saying before about how a lot of the males in the healthcare industry are like doctors or like surgeons. And then a lot of the women in the healthcare industry are either nurses or CNAs. So that's definitely something that we should touch on in a minute. But what I was going to say is that being in a dominated or female dominated field, a lot of the times you are going to be judged on what you do to take care of your residents. A lot of the things that I hear is like if someone comes in looking, you know, like they haven't showered in a little while or maybe they have a little bit of a smell. A lot of the times people will say like, well, how can we expect them to take care of the residents if they can't even take care of themselves? But it's like, you don't know what they're going through. Why does their hygiene have to affect how they care for another person or how they do their job?
Literally.
And honestly, when I'm caregiving most of the time or whatever, I start off like probably smelling clean by the end of the shift. I think I sweat off all of my deodorant.
For sure. Especially if it's a shower day.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or giving multiple showers per day.
Shower
It really depends.
days, oh, they're the worst.
And
You
we
feel
are
like you
worst.
take a shower with the residents.
Plus, I'm sure other caregivers can relate to this. When you're working with elderly people or whatever, they're always cold. So it's usually 90 degrees in their room and you're sweating your ass off while you're trying to get them changed or shower them.
Also, personal opinion, Crocs shower shoes, amazing.
They make the best shower shoes.
Yes, without socks, though.
Without socks, yes.
But I just don't understand, like, why can't we all just get along? We're all here to take care of the people at the end of the day. We're
Did
not
none
here
of you
to judge
learn
anybody.
anything from the Teletubbies?
Oh, man. But no, seriously, though, like, women can be some catty-ass bitches.
Oh,
Real bad. Claws out all the time, 24/7. And I'm like, how did you even beg your husband sometimes? Because, like, how does he put up with you? If literally you're so miserable that all you can do is point out flaws in other people and, like, how they take care of the residents, or...
I can think of a person that you work with that's like that.
Oh.
I can think of someone else in her life like that.
Not in my life anymore.
Heard that, bitch? You done.
You're done. And I hope you listen to this episode.
Don't worry, we'll send you the link.
One of y'all, because he blocked. Take it upon yourselves. I don't even care anymore. Like, literally, obviously I care, but I don't care.
She cares, but she doesn't care.
Exactly. Sorry, not sorry. Anyways, moving on. Enough about my life.
If that gives any indication at all.
Touching back to, like, women in the workplace. Since caregiving and, like, nurses, CNAs, all that stuff, mostly female, gossip is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm working with Becky. Again. And Becky doesn't like me. And she goes off and tells one of the residents that she doesn't like me. Well, now that resident is going to have it in their head not to like me, and they're going to start giving me problems because Becky told them that she doesn't like me. Or my favorite, if Becky spouts her mouth off to one of the residents that does like me, they come back and tell me what Becky said. Don't be a Becky.
See you next Tuesday, Becky.
Oh, so you wanted to touch on that other topic that you mentioned?
Yeah, so, well, quickly going back to the whole divide between, like, men and women in healthcare, and most of the men in healthcare being, like, doctors.
Doctors? Transformers.
Oh,
Is that spelled with an ER?
I don't know. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one.
Or is it doctors?
Is that an OUR?
Or an EUR?
Maybe it's OORS? Doctors?
Alright, enough of the Looney Tunes shit. Let's get on with it.
Versus most of the women in healthcare being nurses and CNAs, or certified nursing assistants. Jasmine, take it away.
You literally left no room.
For nothing. You just stop talking. You like,
Okay.
you say something.
So,
I wanted to open the discussion floor, okay?
we were waiting for you to go into the topic you
I
wanted to
just
discuss.
talked.
so,
We went back to the topic we were already discussing.
so, from a male's perspective, though.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Like, because of, like, all the catty bitches and, like, the gossip and whatever, how do you personally deal with that as a male?
Well, me personally, I mean, sometimes it's annoying. Most of the time I try to, like, ignore most of it. I usually hear all of it, though. But it's usually different. Most of the time for me, I keep my mouth shut about it, but like I usually will hear it, like people will say whatever, or like I'll hear it from somebody or whatever, and I just try to do my best to like rectify the situation. Like I'm very upfront kind of person where I'm like, okay, like if you have an issue, you could have just told me about it.
Said
like,
something, yeah.
Yeah, you could have just said something, but like now other people have like it in their heads of all this different stuff, and it's not even true. Or it gets like, it's almost like the game of telephone where like somebody says something or whatever and it gets misconstrued along the line or whatever, and then it's something completely different by the end of it.
That happened to me recently.
Oh, that's all you're gonna say about it?
That happened to me recently.
Job applications.
A lot of people think of me differently now for stuff that I literally did not do or had nothing to do with. And, it was all made up. So, I am a personal victim of Regina George.
Oh, shit. Damn it, Regina, can you just stop?
But I'm
Stop
curious.
trying to make fetch happen, Gretchen.
Okay, but I am curious though.
It's never gonna happen.
What do you guys think about the divided healthcare, about like how most of the males are doctors and most of the females are nurses or CNAs?
Well, I mean, honestly, I guess we didn't really take into account that that's only half true now, because there are, like, way more female doctors and surgeons nowadays.
That's true.
But mainly that aspect of it, you really just have to have the brains for it and like be able to actually do that kind of work.
Right.
Like for me, I suck at math. Math and I don't math. So I would never be able to do all of those calculations that they have to do and like the scalpel size and all of that fun stuff. I can't do that.
Right.
So I personally would never be able to be like a doctor or a surgeon.
I think a lot of people still think that being a doctor is like for men. It's like if
think
you're
a
a
lot of
woman,
people,
you're a
yeah,
nurse. If you're a man, you're a doctor. Like that's
Yeah, and especially
or some
like
sort of surgeon or something like that.
yeah.
especially our current elderly population, because when they were growing up it was mainly just male doctors, female nurses, female like CNAs. And now for them seeing males in that role, like as a nurse or as a CNA, I think it kind of just throws them for a loop.
Yeah, some of them like it or whatever, and they like the change, but others are like weirded out by it.
Yeah.
Like, just because it's mostly something that they're not used to.
Right, like very stuck in their ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So another thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly before we wrap up is just going back to some previous episodes. If you've taken a listen, we've talked a lot about like personal conversations with residents and stuff like that, and how you kind of have to like learn how to dodge it. And it gets really uncomfortable when residents will ask you like about your ethnicity, like, oh, what are you? Like, that's not really your business. And you kind of have to figure out, okay, how can I say this without like being mean, but also telling you it's none of your damn business.
Right. Sometimes I will go into like a little bit because obviously I'm mixed, so a lot of people like ask, like they're genuinely curious, and I get it. But like at the same time, it's like it really isn't their business. But sometimes I will be just like, yeah, I'm mixed or whatever, like part black, part white, and or whatever, and I'll let them know or whatever. But then it starts getting weird when they're just like they assume that I'm not from the area or not even from the United States, and I'm like, I'm like, just because I'm mixed doesn't mean I'm like from somewhere else outside the U.S. But
oh my
like,
god!
Honestly, like I've met people from outside the U.S., like people of color from outside the U.S., and they have like the thickest accents I've ever heard. So it's pretty obvious when someone grew up here.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Like, it's just, I don't know, it goes back to, I think, being a woman or even just being, like, any sort of minority. Like, it's really not anyone's business.
No,
it
it's
really
just
isn't.
not.
Like, if I ever get asked personal questions like that from a resident and they're being, like, really genuine about it, I'll just be like, hey, I know that you want to know this about me, but I just don't feel comfortable talking about it with you. Like, it's nothing against you. I just don't discuss my personal life at work.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the easiest way to get out of it, guys. Pro tip.
Pro tip. I think that's just about everything that we wanted to cover in this episode. I guess we're signing off.
Bye!
Bye!
This has been the Boss Ravioli Queens podcast with your hosts, Boss Lady Amy,
Nicole Ravioli.
And Jasmine the Queen.
Thank you so much for spilling your ravioli with us.
Don't worry, we'll serve you more next time. Until next time, go wash your ass!